Hello and welcome to Seamless Intelligence, best practices to accelerate product innovation with AI and cloud adoption. Today's exciting webinar is sponsored by Click and produced by Actual Tech Media. My name is Jess Steinbach. I'm with Actual Tech Media, and I'm so happy that I get to be your moderator for this conversation all about growth and innovation, because we all know that things are moving quickly, right? The pace of change is ongoing and it's accelerating. And there are days when that can feel maybe a little more on the challenging side, and days when it is absolutely exhilarating. Well, today we will have the chance to talk with two incredible experts who will explore how you can leverage AI to develop cutting edge products and set an industry leading standard in your organization. Now, together, we're going to get some important tips, actionable steps, and key insights to kickstart growth and innovation. I cannot wait to get started. We've got a lot to do, so I'm going to zip through a few housekeeping points to help you get the most out of your time here with us today. Let's take a little tour of your audience console. We're going to start with the questions tab. Now, this is the best place to get involved, get interactive, post all of those insightful questions, your general wonderings, all the thoughts and ideas that you have going on about AI. As we go through this conversation, there's going to be a lot that's going to spark in your brain. So make sure you're getting those questions in. We absolutely want to hear from you. You can give it a little test run right now. Say hi, say hello. Let us know how your day is going so far. We want to be hearing from you all the way through our session. Now, another good use of that questions window is to let us know if you have any technical issues. Hopefully that doesn't come up. The first thing you're going to try is a browser refresh. I promise that will clear out most of the usual tech gremlins, but if they're really clinging on today, the browser refresh doesn't work for you, you can post a message in that questions window. Let us know that you're having a little bit of trouble, and then we will be there to help you out. All right, so we're in the questions window. The next stop on our little guided tour, we're going to hang out in the handouts tab. There are some great resources and takeaways. I promise you are going to want to read so much more and dig into this even more after we finish our conversation today. So be sure you've got those handouts open. Hold on to them, save them for later, because you will definitely want to spend some time exploring those once we wrap up our webinar. Now, the last piece of excitement that I want to make sure you're aware of today is that $250 Amazon gift card prize, which we have as a drawing at the end of our webinar. Now, you do need to be here in live attendance during the webinar in order to win that prize. And all winners must meet the Actual Tech Media prize terms and conditions. If you're not sure what those are, they are linked for you in that handouts tab that we were just exploring. Click in, scroll all the way down to the bottom, and you will find the full T's and C's waiting for you there. Whew, all right, well, that is it for the housekeeping. We sped through that because I cannot wait to get our wonderful speakers on out here with us. So I am going to introduce them and get this show rolling. I am very happy to introduce you all to our expert presenter and host for this conversation, Rocco Pecora, Senior Manager Analytics Offerings at Click. Now, Rocco brings experience from numerous industries, including private equity, retail, life sciences, and pharma, and energy and utility. At Click, Rocco leads the go-to-market efforts with a focus on Click's global ISV solutions, consisting of data integration, analytics, and AI. All the coolest things right there. Now, today, Rocco will be chatting with another incredible expert here with us, Michael Bronstein, DeepMind Professor of Artificial Intelligence at University of Oxford. Pretty cool. Also a Click AI council member and entrepreneur. And it's that last part, that entrepreneurial part, that I am really excited to dig into a bit more. I mean, let's be honest, all of Michael's credentials are exciting. This is an award-winning academic and previous head of graph learning research at Twitter, among many other interesting and impressive roles. But I am very excited about his background as a serial entrepreneur because I love that growth mindset. I love that tendency toward agility and outside the box thinking. And we will definitely get some fascinating perspectives from both our guest speakers here with us today. We have a lot to cover, so I think I should probably step back, hand things over to you, Rocco, in the studio, waiting to get started. One last reminder to get those questions in as we go throughout our day. I'll be back to join you all for a Q&A shortly. All right, for now, Rocco, I'll step back. I'm going to send things over to you in the Click studio. Take it away.
Welcome, everybody. My name is Rocco Pecora, and here we are for a Click session on AI with an expert that I can't wait to introduce you to. Today, we're going to focus on enabling organizations like independent software vendors, data providers, and digital natives on how they can accelerate product innovation, as well as customer experience and overall business growth with the adoption of AI embedded throughout their products and services. And to set up the scene, really, most of these organizations, that is a key differentiator in what they're trying to do to compete in their market, is leveraging technology and software to empower that product or service and really take advantage of what they can provide to their users. Organizations are looking to make sense of the ocean of data that's available at our fingertips. Leveraging data integration, analytics, and AI, this is a foolproof path on enabling yourself and your organization to compete in your market and bring the best product and services to your customers. To help us explore these topics, we've brought in a world renowned professor of geometric deep learning, Dr. Michael Bronstein from the University of Oxford. Michael, you've created successful companies like Envision Biometrics that sold to Intel in 2012, as well as Fabula AI, which sold to Twitter in 2020, and one of my favorites, Hyperfoods. For our guest, and just to kick it off, could you just introduce yourself and maybe brag a little bit about some of the companies you've launched with AI and machine learning?
Sure. Thank you, Rocco. So pleasure to be here. So I'm a computer scientist. I'm an academic. I work at the University of Oxford, but I also have experience in the industry. So I was entrepreneur. I built several startups, as you mentioned, two successful exits. And I'm interested in new technology in the field of artificial intelligence, machine learning, pattern recognition, both developing it and basically developing the next generation of artificial intelligence approaches and algorithms, as well as using it for cool applications, all the way from detecting misinformation on social media to designing new drugs to understanding the communication of whales and other non-human species. So you mentioned the startups I was involved in and that successfully exited. So the first one was Envision. We started actually with a product that we thought would be interesting, which was three-dimensional face recognition. That was around more than 20 years ago, and it was actually a good example of poor market fit. So the technology was great, and we wanted to offer it to different security applications, but it appeared that the market was not ready for it because there was no really place for these special sensors. So we thought that the sensor itself might be more interesting than the face recognition application, and we were acquired by Intel that used this technology to develop what they call real sense. So it was an idea that you would be able to interact with your computer by hands. So the second startup that you mentioned, Fabula AI, we're using special type AI called graph neural networks to detect misinformation on social networks, in particular on Twitter. And most recently, I'm involved in several biotech startups where we use geometric generative AI in order to design new drugs that potentially would be able to cure currently incurable diseases.
Thank you so much, Michael. I can't wait to dig into these use cases. You know, from Fabula AI to the hyperfoods, it's just incredible what you're able to do. We talked a little bit around how, through the past decade and further, the democratization of technology has really accelerated entrepreneurship. And that alone is pretty powerful. Coming from an academic world to a commercial setting, how are you looking at the landscapes when you have these conversations for these individuals to take these products and ideas to market?
Yeah, so I think this is exactly as you're saying. In our field, things happen at almost light speed, so extremely fast. And if you take any piece of technology, right, that powers modern day AI, probably 5 years ago or 10 years ago, there were just a few people in the world that were the experts in this and could build this technology. Nowadays, almost every student can do it better than us. So in this sense, the technology becomes quickly democratized and becomes a commodity. So we are always, of course, trying to build the next big thing. But it means that becomes more accessible for the common mortals, so to say, the customers.
Yeah, absolutely. I do want to highlight Fabula AI because the use case is just so close to everybody in recency. So, a Fabula AI is a AI company that essentially looks for fake news around Twitter. If you could just give a brief introduction on how you came about that. You mentioned a little bit about the linguistic issues you had there, right, with the unstructured data. Let's kind of just brief through that real quickly.
Yeah, so Fabula was born out of research on graph neural networks, which is a special instance of what we call geometric machine learning. And basically, it treats data that is structured as a network, like social network, but it could be other things. So we apply the same technology to other applications like biological networks, and you mentioned hyperfood, so that falls under this category. Around that time, so that was around, I think, 2018 or 19, there was empirical evidence in computational social science looking at how misinformation spreads. And basically, the empirical evidence showed that fake news, right, or misinformation tend to propagate differently from organic, non-fake stories. And we apply these methods, graph neural networks in particular, to try to pick up these patterns that characterize the propagation of fake stories. And it was pretty successful. So we were able, after just a few hours of propagation of a story, to identify with high probability that it was likely to be misinformation without actually looking at the content itself. So, I mean, we could do it as well, but the main claim of the company was that we can do it just from the spreading pattern. So it was language and content independent. And of course, it attracted the interest of social media companies. And then came forward Twitter, and as people say, made an offer that we couldn't refuse, and we became part of Twitter.
So, Michael, we're seeing that almost 80% of venture capital going to SaaS companies is focused on AI. How important is it for a platform or a vendor to offer AI embedded throughout its product for ISVs and OEM type customers to get to market faster?
Yeah, so I think if we look from the perspective of investors, right, well, and in my job I also talk to many VC funds. I think nowadays what they see is an analogy to the situation with web and internet technologies in the mid '90s, where there was Alta Vista and Excite and whatnot, but not Google yet, right? So it was basically everybody expects that it will be something big, but we don't have a clear picture yet what will be the most successful product, right, or what the most successful service. So I think it's you need to try to understand what is currently possible, and maybe more important, what is currently impossible with existing technology. And if something is not possible, probably expect that it will become possible rather quickly. And also, if you understand the technological trends, you would also be able to predict when certain capabilities will become possible, and maybe some others are far-fetched, and use this technology that would fit well the product and the customer needs.
Well, I think you described that, in a very eloquently way, that you have to essentially build out an operating model for this. And you have to look at technology from a short-term, mid-term, and long-term phase, and even by persona, right? Because you may look at AI to enhance your developers' life cycles so they can build products faster, comparatively to leveraging AI for an end user experience. So it is interesting how important it is to think through these things from an organizational standpoint. You have to kind of plan around technology, as you said, that may not even be available.
So one important thing is in a company that has, or in an organization that has already existing and well-established business processes, to make sure that they're compatible and friendly with AI technology, which to start with starts with the data, how you collect the data, how you process it. So in the case of AI, it has to be consumed by AI, by machine learning architectures, by, for example, neural networks. So it has to be done in the right way. But probably more broadly, this is a very fast-moving technology. So organizations and companies need to make sure that they are future compatible, at least in some way. So you can predict from trends in this field which capabilities that currently might not be possible might become possible in the future. And probably the most challenging part is to imagine how your business or how your product or how your organization will look like if you were to completely rebuild it around AI. So AI might enable completely new capabilities that nowadays might be totally unimaginable.
You're spot on around planning for the future. And really, organizations need to do that in kind of those different time phases and horizons, but it's all based on the customer needs. And technology seems to have a lifespan. User experience, customer expectations change. So, for organizations to remain competitive, they have to adopt a philosophy around technology that includes data, analytics, machine learning, and AI to not only remain competitive, but to retain customers and user experience. And it's going to be an amazing next chapter for engineers and developers because with the ability of the cloud, we talked about technology being democratized and essentially becoming cheaper. Large language models aren't expensive as much anymore, and they're even available as a service out of a cloud provider. Do you have any advice for developers on how to maybe start somewhere? How do you pick one? Do you look at which model may have a better success with the use case you're targeting? Where would one start in that type of research?
There are multiple large language models that are available, and they all have different flavors or different strong points and weak points. In terms of the underlying technology, they're roughly the same. Of course, they might be trained on slightly different data in slightly different regimes. So you really need to understand what your product requirements are, and well, potentially use some benchmarks to evaluate these models. Of course, there are cost considerations that might be different. What is also possible is to fine-tune these models and maybe use them as part of a bigger AI system that could actually be specific for the product that you are trying to develop. So the large language model becomes a kind of a Lego piece, a standardized piece of architecture that you can plug into a bigger system and use it for a particular product.
And assessing the different technologies per use case, Michael, could you just elaborate a little bit on the differences between Fabula AI and hyperfoods, looking at proteins versus fake news articles?
Yeah, so in case of Fabula, the type of data that we're dealing with, it had two components. So the content itself and the way that it spreads on social network, right? So it was roughly unstructured and structured data. So we had to collect both. One of them was processed with special architecture, the graph neural networks at that time were pretty new and cool technology. Nowadays, they're used across the board in multiple companies. I think Amazon, Pinterest, well, probably every social network uses some form of graph learning. And then, of course, there was the content piece, which at that time, well, it was the early days of large language models. So they were processed with transformers or similar type of things. For hyperfoods, basically what we are trying to do is to detect or identify compounds that are similar in their action to drugs that are contained in food. So as you probably know, the stuff we eat, it has a lot of, so to say, dark matter, right? So we usually track, for example, the amount of carbohydrates, proteins, fats, but not other compounds that interact with some molecules in our body. So they are active, they do something. We just have no idea what they're doing. So we're trying, first of all, to identify such compounds from the way that they interact with proteins in our body, right? So proteins, as you know, they're encoded in our DNA, so they're really used as therapeutic targets. They are involved in practically every important chemical reactions that happens in our body. But then we wanted to also look what these kind of compounds do. And for this purpose, we were mining medical literature. In particular, we're looking for anti-cancer type of drugs. And we used NLP, natural language processing techniques. Well, at that time, it was still some early versions of modern LLMs to find the compounds and different biological mechanisms that would explain why this compound would work in a particular use case. So that was the two components. So again, like in Fabula, it was the network structured data that is highly structured, well organized, and you need a special type of deep learning architectures to apply to it. And then there was this messy, unorganized, very noisy type of data, like the article content in the case of Fabula, or the medical literature in the case of hyperfoods.
So, Michael, if someone doesn't have this particular set of skills or resources, like a startup or a mid market organization, does smart technology or a platform with AI embedded it, does that help this type of workflow?
You mean selecting the model, right, that is appropriate for your problem?
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is called generally AutoML, or maybe in more technical jargon, neural architecture search. So you try basically to build from basic pieces of Lego the right machine learning model that will be then applied to your data, trained on your data, and produce the right types of outputs. So it is pretty active field of research in machine learning and artificial intelligence. It means that you still need to train these models. Once you figured out how different components are connected, you need still to train it. So again, coming back to the question of data and how important the data is, that it's of high quality and curated properly.
And developing the programs around these models and which ones to assess. There's hundreds of different data models or machine learning models a non-technical user can be overwhelmed with. And here at Click, we definitely strive at making our platform smart so non-technical users can take advantage of this um, consolidated technology that used to be very technical.
Totally. Yep.
So when we talk about platforms being smart and offering other advantages like from the cloud, hybrid data landscapes, scalability, what are some other things or aspects that individuals should look at when looking at platforms?
Well, so I would first of all look at the technological capabilities in the sense of how scalable the platform is. For example, if you're building a product that you don't know a priori, how many customers you will be using it, right? So you want to be able to scale it up and down. Then obviously it goes without saying all the security features that are nowadays are pretty standard. So you would be looking for certain things that are industry standard. Then of course the technological capabilities of well, in this case AI technology that is offered. So you want to make sure that most recent state of the art models are used and are constantly updated, and the capabilities are expanded in line with the state of the art that is available from the industry. And then, of course, everything that has to do with data. So how data is stored, how data is curated and can be used.
Architecture, as you said, scalability is so important. Elasticity is a big word in this space where, as you said, you're launching a product. You might be guessing, hey, we have 1,000 users going to come into this product, but boom, you went viral. Now you have 10,000 daily users. You have to prepare for that. And again, like you said, finding a platform that can scale to your ambitions is critical.
Yeah, so that's one of the main selling points of cloud services.
So, Michael, I've been a developer and I know that there's good days and there's bad days. Even in the startup culture, and you hit those brick walls, you have these, obstacles. How would you advise our audience to tackle these delays, these speed bumps when they're trying to, push out a product?
Yeah, I think that probably one thing that you can say about the life of a startup is that you have no idea how your next day will look like. So there are ups and downs all the time. It's a roller coaster. So one day you feel like a king, and next day you think that everything is doomed, and there is this competitor that suddenly appeared, or that announcement that was made, or maybe this technology on which you're counting is not working. So I think from my personal perspective, it was always to have the right team, so great people with whom you enjoy the ride. Maybe not necessarily the outcome will be as you expected from the beginning, but at least you're happy working with the people. Now, of course, you can always try to do some pivot or to try to do some workaround. So technology, one of my colleagues used to say that software is soft, so everything is possible. Technology, of course, has its certain limitations, right? And there is also this kind of maximalist saying that technology is responsible for 20% of success, but 80% of failure. I think it happens to be correct in many cases. There is always some technical solution to most of the problems, and you need to find the right one. So it's a little bit of random walk and exploration.
Well, you nailed it as well with assembling the right team, the right skill sets, right? Because if you've done what we mentioned, the planning, the strategizing, you've developed those resources, those individuals to contribute towards the plan. Call it due diligence, but it's all connected in terms of believing that you're on the right path to market.
Yeah, I think it's very important to basically to have two viewpoints. And well, myself coming from the academia, from research, we tend to work on tools, right, or hammers, and we somehow think that somebody else will be providing the nails that we can hit. I think we need also the complementary skill set of a business person that actually finds these nails and tells us how this hammer should look like. So it should be kind of um, um, harmony in the development of the technology and the market and the product that will fit the market.
Absolutely. To summarize today's conversation, we talked through the importance of data as a foundation. When you want to build a product around data, analytics, and AI, collecting data, transforming it, and treating it appropriately across the different strategies you have is critical. And that leads into having an actual strategy, a philosophy around data, analytics, and how you want to use machine learning and AI for your organization. And the last thing was really looking at platforms and how they really help you get to market and build your business growth. So, to capstone, Michael, I'd love for you to just share a last bit of wisdom to our audience when they want to go and build a product, commercialize, and monetize an idea around data and analytics.
Yeah, so I would like to reiterate the point from which we started this conversation, and that's the importance of data. So if we look historically at different breakthroughs of AI, whether it's winning the world's best chess player or the player of Go, or a breakthrough in computer vision, and later in natural language processing, and then more recently in protein folding, right? So it has always been the case, I think, or you can make this case, that data has been more important than algorithms. So it was always the availability of large and clean and structured training set on which algorithms that existed for decades before, maybe with some twists, were trained and made a breakthrough. So as I said before, machine learning with good data is easy, relatively speaking. Machine learning with bad data requires a lot of effort and sometimes might be impossible. And businesses, really, the key thing that they have is the data that comes from their customers, comes from their business processes, that drives their business, right, and their companies. And if before that this data was processed using maybe more traditional techniques of data analytics, or maybe sometimes by humans, by hand, nowadays there is new exciting technology, AI, that can process these data and provide new, maybe previously unthought capabilities.
And to go just like a hair further, it can mine these processes as well, as we have a lot of customers actually doing process mining at organizations because now data is being created after these operational pieces have been executed.
Yeah, so you can definitely try to see which process works the best, right? So optimize not only the black box that takes in the data and produces some output, but the entire pipeline takes in the data, does something to it, and outputs it. And in the industry, we often talk about, for example, A/B testing. So this part can be automated as well. So you come up with a process or a pipeline that is optimal for the task that you're designing it for.
Thank you so much, Michael, for sharing your time with us today. It's been absolutely amazing just speaking with you and listening to everything you have to say.
Thanks, Rocco. My pleasure as well.
And now I'm going to hand you back over to Jess.
Well, Rocco and Michael, thank you so much. This has been such a fascinating conversation already. I felt like we got to explore some of the more maybe high level ideas around data and AI powered transformation and growth, but we also got into some of those applicable, those actionable tactics that we can take into our own organizations. I know that my brain is absolutely buzzing and lit up, and I can tell that all of you with us here today are just as excited because the questions are pouring in, and I want to make sure that we can get to as many of those as we can with the time that we have left. So let's dive in right away. And you know what, Dr. Bronstein, I am going to start out with you. So I'm going to put you in the hot seat to start. We are going to jump in with this question here. What are some of the AI use cases where you have seen faster and more tangible value, especially for a startup business like mine? So we have a fellow entrepreneur out in the audience. What would you say to them, Michael?
Yeah, this is a very, very hard question. So I think I have hard time to say what is the right use case, but I would say that probably you can get fastest to a product using off-the-shelf technology such as LLMs. At the same time, you don't want your product to be just a wrapper around something like ChatGPT, and you will be completely obsolete or wiped out by the next feature release from OpenAI. So I've seen multiple companies doing it and becoming completely irrelevant with the next version of their product. So you want something that is more unique and that uses existing technology, but at the same time offers features that others don't.
That's such an interesting point to consider, and not just using the technology kind of like, actually, you know what, it's like what you were talking about earlier with the Lego pieces and creating that Lego piece, the LLM that can just plug into any sort of architecture, but now adding a little bit of nuance to that so that we have our Lego piece, but we're also making sure that our Lego piece is unique, that our overall product offering is something a little bit different. And I really enjoy that. Thank you so much, Michael. We're off to a great start. And since you did so well on that first question, I am going to leave the mic with you for just a second longer because I have another question for you here. How do you think AI will affect how we deliver product and services to our customer? What would you say to that?
Yeah, so I think the generative AI really gives us completely new capabilities, and it comes all the way from creative writing, right? So when you generate new text with programs like ChatGPT to actually writing software, so autopilot, right, and different applications of this kind that allow you to generate code to increase the productivity. So this really empowers the developers, allows them to work significantly faster, to prototype faster, to get faster to the product, and also create products that previously were impossible.
Absolutely. I love that word empowers. That is such an exciting element to AI and ML, what it will empower our teams to do. In fact, actually, both of you explored that a little bit earlier in our discussion, kind of that cross section, because the right skills and the right technology, and looking at what that combination can do for growth and innovation. Michael, I'd actually like to ask you to take that one step further. I'm wondering if we could walk through what you see as the key impact of that empowerment. Where can we expect to see the effects and the value add of integrating AI into the development of our products?
Yeah, so it's the product that is powered by AI or entirely built with AI and at its core, but also the development process, right? So the writing actual software and the design empowered by AI. So I think we will see um, entire industries transformed by this technology.
That is so exciting. And actually, Rocco, speaking of tools that empower, I am going to hand the mic on over to you on this one because I would like to zoom in a bit more on Click. And we have a question here that I think you can help us answer. All right, Rocco, I am familiar with Click's embedded data analytics capabilities and visualization, and I'm wondering about Click's AI and machine learning solutions. Could you explain more about what that entails? What do you think, Rocco?
Click's AI strategy is really augmenting the decision making process. The supply chain or manufacturing around data analytics is solely to build information tools. So with AutoML, we've created a non technical data science tool for business users to add predictability into an analytics application without a single line of code. We're launching Click Answers, which is the ability to ask questions or query against unstructured data like a document as a contract or any other text based data set. And this is where we're trying to enhance the experience for organizations to use data in innovative ways to have that competitive edge.
Thanks, Rocco. That is perfect. And I love that we keep coming back to what is possible with data, or actually, and I should say, as Michael pointed out earlier, not just with data, but with good data. All right, Rocco, don't go anywhere because I have another question for you here from the audience. And I'm happy that somebody asked this because I think we sort of brushed alongside cloud, but I'd like to jump in a little bit further. So, question for you here, Rocco. Some of Click's competitors have integrated their AI and data analytics solutions into their own public cloud infrastructure, so AWS or Azure, for example. Can you explain Click's cloud strategy for its analytics tools? What can you tell us about that, Rocco?
Click believes in a vendor agnostic cloud strategy. We believe in customers should have the freedom to create whatever data ecosystem or landscape they need to be successful, whether it's completely in the cloud, whichever vendor they choose, or even a hybrid data landscape like customers in regulated markets or governments or public sectors where data sovereignty is a little bit more careful. We really believe in creating these ecosystems for organizations so they can remain successful, innovate, and differentiate themselves from their competitors in whatever market or industry they're in. We really believe in that robustness and the power of scalability so our customers can build these ecosystems customized for their success.
Oh, I love that, Rocco. And earlier you were talking about the importance of elasticity and allowing for that individual freedom to customize based on not only the organization specific needs, also industry specific needs. That is such a key component of enabling that elasticity. So, a really important point there. Thank you so much for that. We are unfortunately running a bit short on time at this point. I'm so sorry to say that because I feel like we could keep this conversation rolling and rolling, and there is so much more to dig into. I do have one more question that I'm going to send your way, Rocco. You know what? Actually, I'm going to sneak in. I'm going to sneak in two questions. I'm going to combine them into one. But I think this is going to give us a really wonderful way to wrap up our day here together today. So, Rocco, two-part question coming at you. Part one, first, could you explain how Click's AI capabilities can be embedded into third-party solutions and applications? And secondly, what I'd like to add into that, Rocco, is we got a few questions coming in wondering what makes Click stand out in the industry. And so wondering if we can add on there a little bit, what are those key uniques that you would want the audience to know about Click?
Click's main philosophy around embedding and OEM type use cases is really revolves around the premise of analytics experiences. All of the investments we've taken on has been to augment the life cycle or the experience of not only the developers and the engineers, but end users. And that comes in a couple different angles. One, we believe in putting analytics no matter where the users are. Information, analytics, data should be accessible to users no matter where they are in a CRM, in an ERP, or even in Teams or Slack. And when developers are looking at building out their own solutions or creating something that's never been done before, that is a big part of what we strive to support our customers with. Using our API first strategy and our framework Click Embed, developers have tools at their fingertips to not only accomplish things that they might have thought of and never tried, but also the ideas of new generations of solutions, leveraging data science, leveraging orchestration, but also bringing AI to the forefront of those analytics experiences. And when you look at our history, being a Magic Quadrant leader for Gartner 14 years in a row, it's a very healthy track record of providing a world class experience around analytics and information.
Well, that is certainly a great key unique and a wonderful testament to what Click has brought to its community. Rocco and Michael, as I said, I wish we could keep going with this conversation. There are a lot more questions in the queue that I'd love to spend some time with, but we are going to have to wrap things up there. So, first, I do want to let everyone out there in the audience know that if you asked a question that we did not get to in our live Q&A session today, we are going to make sure that all of those questions get sent to the Click team. So, you will get responses back via email. So, that also means if you have a question in mind, that's just sort of been rolling around and you haven't gotten it out yet, make sure you get that question in. There's still time. Get that in, and we will make sure that you get an answer in follow up. Well, Michael and Rocco, I want to really thank both of you again for leading us on such an incredible conversation and for sticking around in the studio today so that we could get into some questions with our audience. This has been such an absolutely eye opening and brain tickling conversation from start to finish. I hope that all of you out there with us are feeling that inspiration to continue with these conversations, to keep learning a little bit more about AI and the importance of data, and especially about Click. This is really just the start of the conversation. This is just the jumping off point. We learned a lot today, but there's so much more to dig into. There's so much more to explore. So one way that you can start that rolling right now is to head back over to the handouts tab that we were talking about at the top of our session here today and get some of those resources and follow-ups to this conversation. I'm going to walk you through what's in there because there's a lot of great stuff. So there's a solution brief there, seamless intelligence, elevate user experiences and business success through AI-powered data integration and embedded analytics. That's a lot of great stuff in one place. So make sure you've got that one. You can also snag this really beautifully laid out, easy to read. It's kind of a slide deck style ebook on the evolving requirements for embedded analytics. This is going to explore how to enhance agility, reliability, and automation with cloud deployments. So, a lot of great things that we've talked about today and digging in even further. There's a really wonderful white paper on data drives business, data integration considerations for ISVs and data providers. And I love this one, 15 stories of embedded analytics. So this is going to get into the stories and real life reasons why Click can help you develop a more dynamic relationship with information and engage with it in even more intuitive ways. So many great handouts, so many wonderful ways to follow up on the conversation that we've started here today. So be sure you've got those downloaded, hold on to them, and you know what? Start a little book club with your friends at work. Share all those wonderful resources and then sit down over coffee, whether it's in person or virtual, and dig in and explore them a little bit together, because all of these topics I think we've covered today are wonderful for exploration, right? They're wonderful for conversation and discussion, just as we saw today between Rocco and Michael. So I hope maybe you'll start your own little, do like a coffee talk show at your next office break there. All right. Well, and speaking of wonderful things, I've got one more little piece of awesome for all of you, and that is our $250 Amazon giveaway. We have a $250 gift card that is going to someone who is live, present, and hey, a little bit lucky here at the webinar today. And that is Michael Benassi from Indiana. Michael Benassi of Indiana. Congratulations, Michael. You have won a $250 Amazon gift card. Congratulations. And we will reach out and follow up with you after we wrap up our session today. Well, with that, on behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, I want to once again thank Click for making this webinar possible, especially to our incredible speakers, Rocco and Michael, for leading us through such an interesting conversation. You've given us so much to think about today. I really love when we get to hear from speakers that are truly passionate about the topic and really get to explore what they think is fascinating, and we get to come along for that journey as well. And that, of course, brings me to all of you out there, because my biggest high fives, my biggest gold stars go to all of you for joining us here today and making this conversation possible, joining in with your really wonderful questions and ideas as we went through the session. You know, I think it is a really, truly exciting topic. And again, I know we started this at the top. Sometimes it can feel more challenging and sometimes a little more exhilarating, but AI, that acceleration that's possible, that the opportunities that come out of this data and what we can do in that cross section between humanity and technology, it is thrilling. And it's experts like we heard from today that help us actually get the most out of it, that help us take it from buzzwords and things that we hear about in the news and that wonderful democratization that Rocco was talking about, and into something that we can actually action in our own organizations and get the most out of that. So I hope that you are all feeling that sense of excitement, that feeling that sense of wanting to take action and jump in and truly accelerate your organization's product innovation and business growth. I know that I've learned a ton from this session. I hope that you all have as well. I cannot wait to see you all at a webinar again soon. And until then, have an absolutely beautiful end to your day. Thanks all.